Cooper Witten, David Gabriel Georges. The Big Orange Barbecue was loaded with a ton of talent, and Tennessee knocked it out of the park. That and more, it's your Tuesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you. Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Cain. Today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at Monarch Money, where you can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, a shout out to our friends over at Monarch Money. Everydayers, couldn't do the show without you. We'll get into your questions later in the show for the mailbag portion of your Locked On Vols, so thank you so much. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Where does your team every single day? We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we're talking about the Big Orange Barbecue here today. That was an event held over the weekend on the campus of Tennessee, primarily focusing on the recruiting classes a couple years out, 2027s, a little bit of 2028s. Who was on campus, all that and more. We're going to talk about it right now here on Locked On Vols. Again, no baseball talk right now. I know that frustrates some people. Some people like to complain that I'm never up to date. Again, when you're playing a game at 6 o'clock at night, I'm not doing a podcast at 2 in the morning. So I do apologize. I promise, win or lose, whether Tennessee's off to Fayetteville for Super Regional or not. I mean, by the time we're listening to this, we know the outcome. We will hit on it, win or lose, everything on a Wednesday show. I can promise you that, along with Josh Ward coming up on for Award Wednesday. All right, so who was on campus? Well, I think the conversation is going to start by, with a Vol legacy. He was the biggest name that was on campus for the Big Orange Barbecue, and that is Cooper Witten. And sounds like Cooper Witten had a really good visit down here at Tennessee. Jason wasn't with him. I don't think this was a fanfare of like a family reunion type deal. I don't think Jason Witten wanted all the attention to be on him. And I'm sure not just Tennessee, but I'm sure with all these recruiting trips that Cooper is going to be going on, I could see, I could see Jason kind of taking a back seat in a lot of these respects, kind of like Archie Manning sitting in the stands and, with a disguise on, or, sitting in a quarterback room and falling asleep in the back, because he wanted Peyton and Eli and his son Cooper, before he was, not able to play anymore, to have their own experiences. And so I thought that was a pretty good way to go about it. But, Cooper Witten's a pretty good football player in his own right? 6'1", 210 pounds, former safety, playing linebacker now. And I think the biggest thing about him is he can run. And today's age, if you're a linebacker and you can't run sideline to sideline, you are not going to be playing football much longer. Or you're not going to be playing linebacker, because the game has stretched into a east-west battle, okay? And a 4-2-5 is your base defense, where you take a linebacker off, you put a DB on the field. Boo Carter in the star. Boo Carter's position has taken the place of one of a true middle linebacker, honestly. The 6'4", 250-pound Mike Backer. That's extinct in today's football, right? I mean, nobody runs a 4-3 when you have a mammoth in the middle anymore. That's just not football right now. Now it could cycle back. Football continues to cycle and evolve, and it kind of comes back and everything. So we'll see what happens. But Cooper Witten, what I'm getting at here is he can move. And being able to go sideline to sideline the way he does at the middle spot of the defense, that's pretty big. And so he's athletic. Obviously, we know it's in his blood. 6'1", 210 pounds. Again, Liberty Christian is his high school in the state of Texas. He is, according to the On3 industry rankings, the 19th ranked player in the cycle. Number 1 linebacker, 4th ranked player from Texas. On3 has him as number 17, the number 1 linebacker and 4th ranked player out of Texas. Really, really good player. So Cooper Witten on campus for Tennessee this past weekend, and feels like he's actually been to Tennessee and to Knoxville more than maybe we have known here the last couple of years. And so I think that's obviously a good start to his recruitment. Another one that I want to highlight for the class of 2027 is David Gabriel Georges, running back from Baylor down in Chattanooga. Split time a little bit with Knight, the tailback that was there last year, and a pretty good one. But now it's his show. It's going to be his show for the next 2 seasons. And he is from Canada, going to school at Baylor. And so, East Tennessee is not his home, but he lives here now. He plays here in this state now, and he sees the power T everywhere, and he's been to Tennessee a ton in terms of his recruiting process so far. Really, really good-looking prospect, 6', 205. Again, David Gabriel Georges was just on campus for the 865 Live, back for the Big Orange Barbecue. Talking about a top 40 player in the state. On three has been number 33 in the country. Top 40 player in the country, mind you. On three has been number 33 in the country, number 3 running back, number 1 prospect in the state of Tennessee, a guy that Tennessee really, really covets. And he's been around, not just playing inside the state of Tennessee, but he's teammates with Gabriel, who is, of course, a Tennessee football commit. He was former teammates with Dobson, who, of course, is now on the football team here. Amari Jefferson kind of was around him a little bit, and now he's at the University of Tennessee. So there is that Baylor to Tennessee pipeline, right? And David Gabriel Georges is kind of right in the middle of that with influences on all the sides. So I think this will be interesting. Tennessee is certainly not a slam dunk whatsoever. Ohio State is very much in this one. But David Gabriel Georges is one to watch out for, tailback, and he was on campus this past weekend for the Big Orange Barbecue. One that I wanted to highlight, man, one of the best players in the country, Joshua Dobson. Talking about a top 7-8 player in the country. On three industry rankings has him as the number 6 overall prospect in the class, a 5-star, number 2 cornerback, number 1 player from the state of South Carolina, where he attends Catawba Ridge at Fort Mill, South Carolina. Cornerback, 6'1", 170 pounds, and this past Saturday was already his 3rd trip to Tennessee. Already his 3rd trip to Tennessee. When we're talking about, with the game day visits and the junior day visits and the spring practice visits and the Big Orange barbecues and the 865 lives and then official visits, I mean, you're doing this for just your school or just the school that we're covering and we're following, Tennessee. But think about these prospects. They're doing it for LSU. They're doing it for Clemson. They're doing it for Georgia. I mean, so much is being, put into this process. And I mean, this is a kid, again, Joshua Dobson, who's a top 10 player in the cycle, who's already been to Tennessee 3 times. And he's in the class of 2027. It is June the 3rd, 2025. It's ridiculous, the process that's here right now. But nonetheless, you don't apologize for getting him to campus, and Tennessee got him to campus yet again. That was good to see for sure. And Joshua Dobson, that's going to be one that you need to settle in for because so many others are in play as well. Tennessee had the number 1 linebacker in Cooper Witten on campus this past weekend. Tennessee also had the number 2 linebacker on campus this weekend in Cain Henderson from Tampa, Florida. 6'2", 200 pounds, really, really good looking prospect. On three, it has him as the number 24 overall prospect in the class, the number 2 linebacker behind Cooper Witten, and the number 4 player from the state of Florida. On three is really high on him, having him at number 24 overall. 247 has him at 76. ESPN has him at 24, and Rivals.com has him at 76. And again, Rivals and On three merging officially beginning of July. Looking forward to that. But all the services have him as a top 76 player. So again, that just tells you all that you need to know. Is Tennessee going to be able to land the number 1 and number 2 linebackers in the class? No. But again, you get them to campus, you keep your options open, and that's kind of what Tennessee did, having Cain Henderson and Cooper Witten on campus this past weekend. Another one that I want to highlight that I think is pretty interesting is you look at the class of 2028. There were a couple 2028s on campus, and one of the best wide receivers in that class is Braylon Clark. Again, class of 2028. So this guy is literally about to be a sophomore in high school. 6'3", 185 pounds from Charlotte County Day High School in Charlotte, North Carolina. Dude's a stud. And he was on campus this weekend. Tennessee starting early and trying to stay in that running, of course. And that's what this Big Orange Barbecue is all about. They took that last week of July and where they had it open, and then NCAA said, okay, that's going to be a dead period now because it's running up too close to school starting and high school football practices and all that, and camp starting for the University of Tennessee and other colleges. So they moved that last week that was primarily focused in July with classes in the future, and they moved it here to the very end of May, and I thought that was a really, really good move. And that was kind of the focus on the guys this weekend, whereas the 865 Live last week from Memorial Day was primarily the class of 2026. Other guys who are on campus that that are worth highlighting, a couple of edge prospects, Anthony Sweeney, KJ Green, Antoine Higgins, pretty good players, a defensive lineman, and Donovan Moore. Again, this was a really, really good group that was on campus this past week. All right, so that is kind of the highlights of the Big Orange Barbecue. We'll get into some of your mailbag questions coming up later in the show. Appreciate you guys for being here on a Tuesday Locked On Vols. And stay top. We're going to answer your questions. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money, you start truly building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much money I was spending online shopping, online food delivery, stuff like that. Now I budget smarter and I save more money. Instead of juggling multiple apps, I can use Monarch to check my finances, track my spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing my money with my wife now is smoother than ever. We can track shared personal accounts, set goals together, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money just like I did. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Again, that is monarchmoney.com. Was going to take this time to answer some mailback questions, but didn't get too many in, and that's okay. That's how it works out sometime in the summer months. So if you guys still have any questions, I'll maybe add those up, do them tomorrow, maybe do them the next day or something. I do want to give an opportunity to answer some of the questions you guys may have. So let's pivot here. Let's go to, there was a story, a couple of different stories. Saturday down south, starting with 100 days away from college football, they've done 100 questions of college football, right? And they've done it in a 4-part series. The top 25 questions are not up yet, but questions 100 down to 26 have been up. And I went ahead and got the ones that were Tennessee related. Wanted to bring it on the show here and kind of read the question out, read the description, and kind of talk about it real quick. The first one, number 76. Number 76 on the countdown. It's, can Tennessee effectively move on from Nico Iamaleava? Fair question, right? It says this: no one had a more destructive spring transfer portal window than Tennessee, with Nico Iamaleava bouncing for UCLA. Replacing Iamaleava is a twofold question. How can Josh Heupel and the Vols recover from his absence, both emotionally and practically? The practical side is easier to dissect. The Vols have brought in Joey Aguilar, more on him later, to replace Iamaleava, but Tennessee has unproven players all over its offensive depth chart going into 2025, and that was already going to be a problem for UT when it looked like the Vols would have continuity at quarterback. Now, it's a real difficult challenge for Heupel and co. to sort through. That's all fair, I think. I mean, yeah, there's tons of question marks at wide receiver. They're replacing 4 starters in the offensive lineman. Dylan Sampson is no longer in the backfield, and oh yeah, your quarterback that, started every game for you last year, including a college football playoff game, is no longer on the roster. So I think all that's fair. I think moving on from Nico himself, just like the article says, I think that's already happened. You go out and get Joey Aguilar, it's full speed ahead. Not a lot of Nico talk anymore, although he did have an Instagram story about Tennessee the other day, which was kind of interesting. But not a whole lot of Nico talk anymore. It's all about Joey and the quarterback competition with Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre. So moving on is, the fan base and people like me, we've already done that. However, there's still so many questions you got to answer. So I think that's a pretty valid question right there. Question number 62 was this: what kind of ceiling does Joey Aguilar have? And here's the description. Let's talk about Joey Aguilar. UCLA thought enough of him to reportedly give him a 7-figure payday to transfer in from App State. Now that he's in Knoxville, what should the expectations be? Unfortunately for Vol fans, he doesn't have any positive experience against power conference opposition. In 2 games versus Power 4 opponents while at App State, he had a passer efficiency rating of over 105. That's not good. But in Josh Heupel's offense, there's probably reason to believe he'll have a higher floor than history may indicate. The question is his ceiling high enough to reasonably expect another college football playoff season from the Vols? I've talked about this ad nauseum, right? He's turned the football over at times. The interception counts up right there. What do quarterbacks in Josh Heupel's system while here at Tennessee fail to do? And that's turn over the football at a high clip. There will be fumbles, there will be picks, that's part of the game. But Hendon Hooker did not turn the football over. Joe Milton did not turn the football over. Nico protected the football fairly well. And so in this system, Josh Heupel teaches his quarterbacks, and maybe the system helps that a little bit to, take care of the football and not turn it over. If Joey Aguilar can come in here and minimize his turnovers, minimize his interceptions, they're still going to be there, but minimize them a little bit. Rely on that defense, rely on that run game. I think Tennessee's going to be fine, because I think the passer in Joey Aguilar and just the experience of a veteran signal caller, and I understand he hasn't played at the Power 4 level, but he's played a lot of football. I think that's going to outweigh some of the negatives here. So, sure, You've got to protect the football. You can't throw it to the other team, and Joey Aguilar's got to do that. But history has shown us that quarterbacks in Josh Heupel's offense typically do protect the football. 3 more questions here. Number 61. Again, Saturday Down South's 100 questions for 100 days away from college football. 61. Here it is. Tennessee's explosive plays have dried up. Will that be better next season? Here's what it says on that. Josh Heupel has a reputation of one of the best offensive minds in the sport. He's done it at a number of stops since being fired at Oklahoma more than a decade ago. But in 2024, Tennessee's offense wasn't explosive. Some fans blame that on Nico Iamaleava, and they may be right. But regardless of whose fault it is, the Vols have to be better in that area in 2025. Last fall, they ranked in the 13th percentile in explosive plays rate on game on paper. That's where they ranked in 2023 with Joe Milton under center 2. That won't cut it in 2025. Again, rinse, repeat. We've talked about this ad nauseum. And I'm glad they brought up 2023 because it wasn't just this past year. And maybe that's Alex Golish. Maybe that's Hendon Hooker. Maybe that's as simple as different direction of the offense. But regardless, that's got to get a whole lot better, as does efficiency in the red zone. That's got to be so much better in 2025. But the explosive plays, you look at the number. I charted them early in the offseason. We can bring him back on this podcast at a later date and talk about it again. The explosive plays year 1 and 2 in this offense in 2021 and 2022, significantly higher than that of in 23 and 24. So that's got to be fixed. That's got to be fixed for sure. Question 36. The Vols thrived thanks to Dylan Sampson in 2024. What's the plan without him next season? Again, before I even read this, I can tell you this from a local perspective. We talk about this all the time, and I get it from a national perspective. But from a local perspective, we know what the plan is, right? Let's see what they have to say. The degree to which Tennessee's offense relied on Dylan Sampson last season is probably not being discussed enough. He had a staggering 258 carries last season, nearly 20 per game. Since the pandemic, only 3 SEC running backs have hit that average for a full season. Tyler Batty, Cody Schrader, two Missouri running backs, and Quinshon Judkins twice while at Ole Miss. But I do bring good news. Deshaun Bishop and Samson put up virtually equal EPA per rush numbers last season per game on paper. The success rates were similar enough, too. I think there's reason to believe Bishop can be an approximation of Samson was a year ago at running back, at least on a per-down basis. Whether or not Bishop can or should handle Samson's volume of carries is another matter. I mean, just go look at, and again, Samson's will be a little bit different simply because the volume was such a higher rate. But go look at Deshaun's yards per carry. It was really, really good last year. Really good. You couple Deshaun Bishop's yards per carry with that of what Peyton Lewis is going to do and, what Tennessee's going to do with, bringing in a guy in the transfer portal as well. It's going to be 3 running backs, you're going to look at. And plus, what does DeJuan Morris do? That's that 4th true freshman running back. I think he's a ways a little bit. But nonetheless, Tennessee's got 3 backs that you like. And I think it's going to be a 1A, 1B situation, and Tennessee's going to be okay. Again, last season was the only year under Josh Heupel that Tennessee had a true workhorse at running back. Jalen Wright had such a phenomenal 2023 campaign, but he only had 110 carries. 110 carries to 258 carries from Dylan Sampson last year. That's quite the disparity. Why? Well, because you had Dylan Sampson. You had Jabari Small each of the past 2 years. In 2021, Jabari Small had Tyon Evans and some other running backs as well. So it's been more of a workload 3 of the 4 years under Heupel. The exception was last year with Dylan Sampson. So will that be different? Darrell Sims, new running back coach, that's also a variable in here. The previous running back coach was Jerry Mack. Darrell Sims shows that he likes to play 2 running backs. Mack played 3 running backs. You had 3 options in those years. You'll probably have 3 options this year as well for Tennessee. So will be interesting, but I think replacing Dylan Sampson, phenomenal year. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but based on what Tennessee's done on the ground under Josh Heupel, 2,500 plus yards in all 4 seasons, again, I'm going to take the side of Josh Heupel in the run game. I think it's going to be okay. And then the last question I'm going to highlight here, again, Saturday Down South is going to put out the top 25 questions at some point. They've released 100 through 26, and this is the last one on Tennessee to this point. It's question number 35. Can Tennessee's defense survive without Jamal McCoy, and for how long? It says this: Tennessee star cornerback Jamal McCoy reportedly tore his ACL back in the winter. At this point, it's unclear if he's going to be back in time for the start of the season. That's the hope, but time will tell if he's able to make it back. If he misses time to begin the year, it would be a huge loss for the Vols. McCoy received a PFF coverage grade of 89.6 last season, which is tops among the SEC cornerbacks who are returning in 2025. Yeah, he's doing well. Progress, rehab, all that's going well. Is he going to be ready to roll snap one game one? I don't know yet. And, how healthy will he be? What will his snap counts be the first game he plays in? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But again, Tennessee went out there and prepared, right? Made sure you kept Ricky Gibson. You still have Jalen McMurray. Went out and got Colton Hood. Tons of versatility there with Colton Hood and freeing up Jalen McMurray to go help Boo Carter at the star position as well, or Colton Hood to help Boo Carter at the star position as well. The addition of Colton Hood, we talked about it a ton the last couple of weeks. It's huge for Tennessee, and I think that's a big-time safety blanket. Plus, for Colton Hood, I think he's a 3-year player potentially if he stays here, and he can have a long and a bright future in a Tennessee uniform as well. So I like Tennessee's answers to some of these questions. Tennessee still has a ton more questions, but of all the questions on the offensive side of the football, and I'm sure Tennessee and wide receiver is going to be in the top 25, I'm good with how Tennessee is going to answer at quarterback. I'm good with how Tennessee is going to answer at running back for sure in terms of some of these offensive questions. Those are some of the Tennessee branded questions from Saturday down south. 100 days until football season, 100 questions for football season. Those are some of the Tennessee questions from the first 75, if you want to call it that. All right, here's a question. What's Tennessee going to do in terms of a quarterback recruit, a quarterback commit for the class of 2027? You might be sitting here saying, whoa, don't get ahead of yourself, man. It's June 2025. Well, August of last year is when Faison Brandon committed. Could Tennessee have a summer commit from a quarterback for the class of 2025? We'll discuss when we return right here on your Tuesday morning Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. So Tennessee hosted the Big Orange Barbecue over the weekend and had a summer prospect camp on Sunday, and was able to get some eyes and look around at some of these intriguing prospects that you want to hand out offers to. Some of that did happen, and start kind of building those relationships with. Because recruiting is it's constantly moving and evolving, and you want to make relationships with some of these younger guys in the summer. That way you can get them on camp, or that way you can get them to camp, or get them on campus for a game this fall, and then bring them back for a junior day, and then a spring practice, and then an official visit, and then the 865 law. It continues. It's a never-ending cycle, right? And so while all the focus needs to be on 2026, you also need to give some light, not all the focus, you also need most of the focus. You also need to shed some light on the class of 2027 and kind of building and establishing some relationships with some of the top prospects in those classes. My question for you guys is right now, what's Tennessee going to do at quarterback in 2027? It's interesting. Tennessee's been set up pretty well at quarterback under Josh Heupel. Nico was the commit. I know he's not here, but Nico was a big-time recruiting win for the class of 2023. Because you got Nico, it's not like you can go out and get another 5-star quarterback, right? Because who would want to come and sign up for that? You got Jake Merklinger, who was a top 10 quarterback in the class, but he was a 4-star. He was not in that top 100 range. But Jake Merklinger was your quarterback commit for the class of 2024. Then you got George McIntyre. George McIntyre, one-time 5-star, ended up being a 4-star in-state guy. Tennessee fans know all about him. I mean, that was a good get. And then you get Faison Brandon, who is a 5-star, arguably one of the best players in the country, depending on which book you look at or which service you look at. Top 30, top 35 player in the country, 4 to 5-star quarterback, and that was a huge win as well. And so when you bring in that level of quarterback year in and year out, there's got to be some years where you kind of, I don't want to say take a scrub, because that is not what Jake Merklinger is certainly not a scrub. In fact, Jake Merklinger might be your starting quarterback this year, but you got to take a lower ranked prospect a lot of times when you're coming off getting a big guy. Again, Nico to Jake Merklinger. Faison this past year, what's that mean for the class of 2027? And will that guy commit in August of this summer? I doubt it, like Faison did. I doubt it, but of course we can see. One guy to keep an eye on, and this is a highly ranked guy. This is a 4-star quarterback, Jace Johnson. Interesting guy here. Again, he's a 4-star. He is the number 5 ranked quarterback in the class, according to the On3 industry rankings, from Lowndes High School. Lowndes, excuse me. There's Valdosta and there's Lowndes down there. I think I'm saying that right. And you want to talk about some great high school football in South Georgia, about as south as you can go in Georgia. Brilliant high school football. In fact, We played a December playoff game when I was at Carson Newman Division II, and there's Valdosta State, the college, and we played a December. I was actually talking about it with my parents the other day. Actually, we played a December the 5th playoff game. Way back when I was a sophomore. I think I was a sophomore at Carson Newman. And my parents went to that game and they got sunburnt in the month of December. But anyway, we played at Valdosta State, the college, and we practiced the day before. We did a walkthrough the day before at Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia. Lowndes High School, Valdosta High School, great high school recruiting. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. But Jace Johnson plays at Lowndes, and he's 6'3", 205 pounds. He's going to have his pick of wherever he wants to go. Georgia, Florida's involved. Tennessee's involved. He's been here a couple times. He was here for the Tennessee-Florida game last October at Neyland Stadium. And he was on campus, and he went around with the 865 barbecue and did all that. He said, quote, this is over at volquest.com when he spoke with Matt Ray. It's a quote, I spent a good time with Coach Halsey, Coach Heupel. The good quality time I spent with the coaches is what me and my family enjoyed about the visit the most. He goes on to say, quote, Tennessee is a priority for me and my family. They are most definitely making me feel like a priority. I give them a call every week. We talk. I feel like this is the most that stands out about my relationship with Tennessee right now. He goes on to say, talking about the atmosphere when he was here over the weekend, of course, and when he was at Neyland Stadium last fall. Said, I would say the atmosphere, about what stands out the most. Said it was good, family atmosphere around Knoxville. I feel like there's a great brotherhood here, so on and so forth. So you can read the whole story over at volquest.com. When Matt Ray caught up with Jace Johnson, a 2027 four-star quarterback recruit. So anyway, I mean, that would be, I mean, it's early right now, but if I'm like making a way too early pecking order, and I'm not sure that there's even a pecking order of quarterbacks in the 2027 class right now, but Jace Johnson's certainly up there. But can Tennessee afford, literally nowadays, can Tennessee afford to get a guy like Jace Johnson, who's a top 5 quarterback in the class? Look at the quarterbacks that are in front of him. 2 of the top 5 already committed. Trey Taylor committed to Nebraska. He's number 2. Brady Edmonds committed to Ohio State. He's number 3. Elijah Haven, the top-ranked quarterback in the class, according to the On3 industry rankings, he's currently uncommitted. LSU and Michigan battling there. You've got Kavion Bryant, number 4-ranked quarterback in the class. Michigan and Texas A&M also battling there. And then there's Jace Johnson. Can Tennessee, after getting Faison Brandon, afford to get a guy like Jace Johnson? Would Jace Johnson have any interest in coming here to a quarterback room that if he were to commit when he got on campus, you would have if nobody left, you would have George McIntyre, potentially Jake Merklinger, but George McIntyre, Faison Brandon, and then Jace Johnson. I don't know. That's a good question to ask. One guy that Tennessee did offer over the weekend at camp, he came in and camped, is a quarterback by the name of Derek Baker. He's originally from Fort Myers, Florida. He transferred to Milton in Georgia, and that's where he's playing football right now. He is not nationally ranked. He's a 3-star rated prospect, 6'1.5", about 225, and he came up and camped over the weekend, and Tennessee extended an offer to him. So maybe Derek Baker is a name to kind of have a tab on, if you will. That would kind of fit the mold of, well, would you have to sign a lower-ranked prospect after getting a guy like Faison? At least right now, I don't know. So that's an interesting conversation, and it kind of goes parallel with, why can't Tennessee go get a backup quarterback out of the transfer portal, or a number 3 quarterback out of the transfer portal? All those years those 2 years when Tennessee was playing with 2 quarterbacks, with Joe and Nico, 2 scholarship quarterbacks, and points in time just Nico. Whenever Joe opted out of the bowl game and all that, it's kind of like, well, why would you want to transfer to Tennessee when you have all these guys in front of you? When Nico's the clear-cut starter, or when Joe's the clear-cut starter, then you have the second coming and Nico behind him, or when Nico's the guy and you're not going to get to play an awful lot. And then now it's, well, you've got George McIntyre along with Jake Merklinger. This is after Joey Aguilar leaves, and then you got Faison Brandon. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So it's an interesting conversation, but it's never too early to start looking through some of these higher-rated prospects in the class of 2027. In the 2027 cycle. What Tennessee has done under Josh Heupel, though, is they've got the quarterback that they wanted. They zeroed in on him, and they got him as an early commit to kind of build around them for that class. They've done it every single year. Taven Jackson, and that was the first year Josh Heupel got the job in January. Taven Jackson was the latest quarterback commit of any of his classes. He committed in early April. Nico committed in March. George committed, I want to say, in January. Then you had Faison that committed this past August. And so when will the 2027 Tennessee class quarterback commit? I don't know. Who are the top three? I don't know. I just talked about two names right now. I don't even know if there's three names even discussed right now, but that is an interesting conversation to kind of keep tabs on. Tennessee did have two quarterbacks in this weekend. Jace Johnson, he's a top 5 quarterback, and he spoke highly of the Vols, and then offering Derek Baker, a guy who came up and camped over the weekend, for the Big Orange. So good conversation there in terms of quarterback and offering, and, when's too early, when's the right amount of time, all that. But certainly recruiting is never going to stop, and recruiting is an endless cycle, so never too early to discuss some of these 2027 prospects that could potentially be a part of Tennessee's plans moving forward. All right, fun show. Again, didn't do mailbag today, didn't have a whole lot of questions. That's okay. If you want to send in your questions, certainly, depending on the outcome of, by the time you're listening to this, last night's game, there could be a lot of baseball questions. We will discuss baseball, I promise you. I just didn't want to do one in the middle of the night after, win, loss, whatever happens, season over, season continues to Fayetteville potentially. I didn't want to do all that in the middle of the night. So we will discuss baseball on tomorrow's show. I can promise you that. All that and more. Hope to catch up with Josh Ward as well. Birthday coming up, so don't forget what he's doing. He's running/walking 40 miles for his 40th birthday, raising money for Second Harvest Food Bank here in East Tennessee. Phenomenal stuff. I'll tweet out that link. I'll share the link, and I'll put it in the show description for sure here this week as well. So hopefully we'll catch up with Josh Ward on tomorrow's show here on Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys, as always, for being a part of the show. This is Locked On Vols.